Would you be the jerk for telling an alienated family member that it's their own fault? We'll get into that in a bit, but first, am I the jerk for not putting my shirt back on? I, 19-year-old female, have been going to the gym near consistently since February this year. I've lost 18 pounds so far, and while I still have 93 pounds before I reach my goal, I've already gained so much strength and confidence in my body. I'm 5'7" and 255 pounds. I know I'm big, but I don't think it should really affect how I dress. I get sweaty at the gym, and the one thing worse than a sweaty bra is a shirt that sticks to you because of sweat. My gym also doesn't have air conditioning on a low enough temperature for me to avoid getting like this. For reference, my gym doesn't have a dress code. As a result, for most of my workouts, I've opted to just go in my bra and leggings or shorts. Today was a chest and back, and I chose to wear my bra and shorts combo. No cleavage is showing, no underwear is peeking out above the shorts. It's what a lot of the other girls I've seen at the gym wear. I'm going through my workout, and by the time I get to the bench press, I notice some people in the corner giving me the side eye. I try to ignore them and turn up my music, but I can still see them just staring at me unhappily. I finish a set when one of the girls in the group approach me and asks me to put on a shirt. She states that it's unsanitary. I say that I wiped down all the equipment before and after use. She says it doesn't matter and that I needed to be more polite to the other gym members. At this point, I already knew she was most likely talking about not wanting to see my rolls. I get it. No one wants to see the fat person jiggle. I sit up and tell her that I'm wearing almost the exact same thing as her friend in the corner. Her friend was also in a bra and shorts, and to tell me why she actually wanted me to put on a shirt. She got frustrated and said, "Forget it," before storming off. I got back to my workout and just finished it. I'm typing this in my car as I wonder if I could have handled it better or just complied and put my shirt on. I'll be honest, I have scars from picking at my skin, stretch marks, and a very jiggly body. I know my body isn't the most flattering, but I don't believe it gives you the right to demand a person to cover up. Am I the jerk? So OP actually attached a picture of what they were wearing, and it was honestly, I would say, a very conservative sports bra, and I saw zero things wrong with what OP was wearing. There's literally no issue here. These people were just being flat out rude. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you enjoy getting to decide whether or not all of these people are jerks, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our next story is, am I the jerk for not using my husband's hilarious gift? Husband, 29-year-old male, and I, 26-year-old female, have been married for 4 years. I had a great job in sales before COVID, but we found during the pandemic that things just worked better with husband at work and me at home. He earns enough to support us both. I never thought I'd end up being a traditional wife, but given that he's the breadwinner, I sometimes feel as though I should pick up a lot of the slack at home. I'm not a great cook, but I'm sociable and enjoy being the hostess. When husband has friends over to watch soccer, I prep a huge tray of snacks, keep the beers on ice, and pop in with drink and food top-ups during the game. I don't stay to watch, but I do ask the guys how they're doing, etc. Just polite chit-chat. They all seemed into it and often comment that H has done well to have such a great wife. It's a nice setup. Last week, H came home with a beautifully gift-wrapped box and said he got me a little something to wear when his friends are next over. I do my best to dress nicely when they're around, so I figured it would be a pretty dress or something. He had this huge grin on his face, so I was so excited. I opened the box to find a red latex mini dress and a ball gag. The gag was designed to look like a soccer ball, and the dress is in his team's color. I didn't know what to say at first. I was so confused. He's never been into anything like that. He's very vanilla. I asked if it was a joke, and at first he said no and told me his friends wouldn't believe how lucky he was if I walked in with the snacks like that. I can't remember what I said next, but then he told me it would be hilarious if I wore it, and I should lighten up. I gave it a nervous laugh and told him I thought it was funny too. This morning, he put both items on my dresser and said he's looking forward to seeing me in them when the guys are around tomorrow. I reminded him that he said it was a joke. He got a bit sulky and said he can't believe I don't have a sense of humor, but from what he's saying, it sounds like he's expecting me to wear it. I'm so confused because 1, I don't know if he's done this as a joke because his friends think I talk too much, or 2, if he'd get off on me being humiliated. He says I'm being uptight and called me out for being a jerk, but I honestly don't think I'm unreasonable. Am I the jerk? Well, I agree wholeheartedly that OP is right in that there's some kind of underlying feeling that is not being expressed properly here. I mean, the ball is in OP's court on whether or not they actually want to wear it. I am guessing they probably don't. It's just a weird thing to spring on you and not clarify what you actually like about it, while also placing expectation to actually wear it. It's obviously degrading, and if they can't actually say what it even inspires them to have done that, it's pretty hard to convince yourself to indulge in it, especially if just humor's the goal. All I can say is, I don't know about his friends, but if I went to a friend's house and their wife just walked out in a red mini latex dress and ball gag, I'd be A, uncomfortable, and B, thinking, is this like a setup for something? This next story is, am I the jerk for not letting my wife go on vacation? So I, 35-year-old male, and my wife, 34-year-old female, have a 16-month-old child. For background, she makes twice as much as I do. For now, my boss told me he'll almost be doubling my salary 2 years from now. She generally works overnights and weekends, healthcare, and I work a 9 to 5. We essentially take turns taking care of the child while the other one's at work. I often leave work early or come in late to help accommodate her work and pumping schedule. She's been breastfeeding and pumping since our child was born. Recently, her supply has dropped to the point where she's not pumping anymore but will still nurse the baby. This essentially eliminates hours of work from our day. Hers from pumping, mine from cleaning the bottles and pumps every night. We did it, she did it, we made it, it's great. Yesterday, she told me that she wants to reward herself by going on an international vacation for a week with just her and her friend this summer. Her arguments are that she deserves it, she's never been out of the country, and it's something she's always wanted to do and wants to do before it's too late. I agree that she deserves it, but I think it's ridiculous that she thinks it's an acceptable thing to go to the other side of the world without her family for an entire week while our baby's still about 1.5 years old. I told her it's one thing if she wanted to take a trip somewhere in the States, but to go to either Southeast Asia or Europe is entirely too big of an ask. For me, it's the fact that our baby still needs her. This forces me to take a week off work, and the fact that she thinks it's appropriate whatsoever to do something like this. She's offered to fly her mom in for a week to help with childcare, which would help on my end, but doesn't solve the issue. She says she doesn't feel like she should have to wait to save up enough to pay for the both of us. I'm hurt she wants to go alone, but understand she wants to reward herself. But I just think she's swinging for the fences at an inappropriate time. What happens if our baby gets sick? What if there's literally any kind of emergency? I told her if the roles were reversed, she would absolutely not approve of me leaving for an entire week to go on a vacation by herself. Am I the jerk for saying she shouldn't go on vacation? First of all, can I just say, I do not trust a boss that says, trust me, in 2 years, I'll double your salary. You better have that in writing. Secondly, I really don't think a week is too much time to let your partner just decompress. Honestly, I think more and more in today's society, you're almost kind of pressured or feel like you can't ever just take a week off. I don't think the world's gonna turn upside down if she's gone for just a week. Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling my friend, 32-year-old male, he's out of line for refusing to go to our mutual friend's wedding? So a good friend of mine, let's call him Josh, and I, 29-year-old female, are part of a group of friends. We're all invited to a wedding of one of our close friends, Dan, 31-year-old male. Dan had been in a relationship with his soon-to-be wife, Katie, 30-year-old female, for almost 10 years. In the second year of their relationship, she had an affair, it came out, they broke up, and Dan was distraught. Nearly 8 years later, after a ton of therapy, tears, and talking, they're very happy together and are excited to take the next step. Josh was critical of Katie for a while, but he's great friends with Dan and has always been civil and courteous to her. Now that the wedding invites have been sent out, he's suddenly told us that he's RSVP'd no. He said he can't stand there and watch two people get married when he knows one of them does not respect the sanctity of fully committing to one person. He's a firm believer in once a cheater, always a cheater, and says watching Katie getting married goes against his morals and he has to be true to himself. The others are shocked, but have accepted his reasoning, but Dan is very upset. I called Josh and told him he was completely out of line and acting very selfish. and that it was not the bride's job to ensure everyone approves of all of her actions in life. I asked him to please reconsider, and that it would mean the world to Dan to have him there. Now, Josh is also pissed at me for not having his back. I'm a bit worried if I'm the jerk for not respecting Josh's morals and getting involved. It's not healthy to hold a grudge for 8 years over somebody else's ex, who really you didn't have any one-on-one connection with to begin with, especially when they said, hey, we've gone through years of therapy and stress and drama to get to this point. We're happy, we're getting together. You can't support your very close friend in that moment because she did something almost a decade ago. I don't think OP's the jerk for pointing it out and calling them out for it, but don't make it a habit. This next story is, am I the jerk for calling my brother and best friend idiots for hiding their relationship from my parents for 6 years? My brother, mid-20s, and I, mid-20s, are Indian. When I was a freshman in high school, I met a white girl named Haley, mid-20s, who quickly became one of my best friends. From the start, it was clear that my brother and Haley were attracted to each other. A bit after high school, Haley and my brother became official. To Haley and my brother's credit, they always made sure this was okay with me, and Haley took pains to make sure that she wasn't overlooking me. About 2 years into their official relationship, I made what in retrospect might have been a mistake. I told my brother he should tell our parents about Haley. My parents already knew Haley as my best friend, and my mom especially really liked her. I told my brother that our parents were more liberal compared to people in their generation from a similar cultural background, and he had less reason to hide his relationship compared to some other Indians. For instance, both of them welcomed my cousin after my dad's brother disowned cousin for being gay. Well, now they're deciding to get married. Obviously, they told my parents. I knew that this was going to be a crap show, so the day they told my parents at their home, I made an excuse and said I couldn't come because of work. Predictably, they were upset, but as my dad later told me, they weren't upset because Haley's white. They were upset that they hid their relationship from them for so long. Well, I met my brother and Haley today. Haley asked me what did they say. I called them idiots for lying about such a thing and told them they were upset. In response, my brother called me a jerk for calling them idiots, and I don't understand the pressures an interracial couple faces. I think it's right on the line because I don't think you need to kick somebody while they're already down, but I do agree that OP had a very valid point, and you probably should tell somebody that you're dating at some point before the whole, hey, we're also getting married now phase. This next story is, am I the jerk for returning to work right after my child was born? My ex and I had a child on Sunday. We broke up before we knew that she was pregnant. The weekend my child was born was a long weekend, and I returned to work on the Tuesday. I was with her in the hospital from the Saturday morning to the Tuesday morning, doing whatever I could to help her. She's now very mad at me, saying I should have taken the week off to help out with the baby, and that she feels unsupported. She says that she can't have a shower, make breakfast, etc. because she has to look after the baby. She's staying at her parents' house as well, so she isn't alone all day. Why I didn't take any time off is because I just started a new job in January, and at the time, I didn't know if I was going to be involved in my child's life. It then got to a point where it was too close to the birth date to really organize any time off. Plus, my ex is taking a year off with half pay, in which she says she'll only get $20,000. So I need to keep my job and keep working to financially support my child. I help out when I'm finished and before work with whatever I can, but right now the baby is feeding for almost the whole night and she's exhausted. Am I the jerk for returning to work? I think this one can be really divisive. Some people might say, why was OP unsure whether or not they were going to be in the child's life? Some people would say just because you're not dating them doesn't mean you can just expect a backseat role. But then you also gotta just understand that somebody's gotta make the money and you can't just willy-nilly get time off work just like that. Our next story is, am I the jerk for having my girlfriend over all the time? I have a basement apartment by myself. It's a 1-bedroom with my landlord and his wife living above me. I pay a cheap rent and half the utilities for the house. Landlord is a friend from high school that we hang out with socially quite often. My girlfriend got a new job within 10 minutes of my apartment, and her house is about an hour away. It wasn't intentional, the job kind of landed in her lap and it is good money, so it makes more sense for her to stay with me more frequently when she's working in office. It's been this way for about 6 months that my girlfriend is at my apartment about 4 to 5 nights a week. There's street parking, so my girlfriend doesn't occupy the driveway, and my entrance is separate with a locked door between the units. This week I'm working midnights. Girlfriend has a key and has been staying in my place while I'm at work in the evening since Wednesday. Yesterday, Thursday evening, I get a call from the landlord flipping that she's been there, saying he doesn't like other people in his space. I say it's my space she's in, as she doesn't leave my unit and is locked from entering his, and he says he's not comfortable with someone there without me. My girlfriend and I went to their all-inclusive wedding. She's not a stranger to him, and I said as much. It turned into an argument that couldn't be solved while I was at work. So I told him my girlfriend would go home for the evening, and him and I would sort it out in the morning. My girlfriend was upset, but packed to leave. While packing, my girlfriend called me in tears because my friend could be heard upstairs screaming about her being there and presumably smashing stuff. I could hear him through the phone, so I told my girlfriend to leave her stuff and I would bring it. When I arrived home that morning for my overnight work shift, I let my landlord know that I would be moving out. He was very upset and said I'm the jerk for leaving him hanging for my rent next month when all he's asking is to have my girlfriend over less. I told him how he's made it so my girlfriend is uncomfortable at my place at all and that I want to live somewhere where I can have guests at my own discretion, especially when I'm paying half the utilities. He said it's not about money but about comfortability, and he'd be happy to talk to my girlfriend to make sure she knows they're still friends. I just want to be done with it. He made it clear what he is comfortable with, and I made it clear what I am. Am I the jerk for wanting to move out so I can continue to have my girlfriend over all the time? This guy sounds absolutely unhinged, and considering the way they freaked out there, I think it's for the best that you sever this entirely and leave that far behind. Because God forbid, if this guy is willing to snap in this situation and smash stuff in their apartment, what would happen if they have a slightly worse day? Our next story is, am I the jerk for not wanting to babysit my siblings' kids anymore? I, 23-year-old female, used to be very close with my family. My siblings have children, and I used to be a big part of their life. I'm always taking good care of them. On my free time, I never do anything for myself. I spend it always with them because I love them. I always go above and beyond for them, not to mention I spend lots of money on them. I'm the aunt that never said no to them. My siblings have more money than me, but all my money seems to go to their children. Now, this is not my siblings' fault, it's just what I choose to do. I love them like my own, and I never felt like I was being used by my siblings to be a free babysitter because I truly enjoyed it from my heart. I don't have friends of my own. I considered my siblings my friends. However, a year ago, I had a terrible injury and couldn't walk or use my hands for 6+ months. I went from being the girl that helped everyone out to being unable to help myself. I couldn't walk to the bathroom, kitchen, nowhere. For the first months of my injury, I lost 30 pounds and I was severely skinny. I lost all that weight due to being unable to cook for myself. There were times I needed help even using my spoon. I needed to be fed. No one helped me. There were times I literally cut my hair off because I could no longer take care of my long, thick hair. There were times I couldn't take showers. It was the most depressing time of my life. I went from dealing with my injury to dealing with all kinds of problems due to not taking care of myself, not eating properly, etc. Fast forward, after months of suffering and struggling, I was able to slowly heal. I was very mad at my family when I was finally healed. I realized that they used to call me every day before my injury because they could use me as a babysitter. But during my injury, they acted as if I didn't exist. There were no phone calls, no checking up on me to see if I needed anything, nothing. I did have high expectations from them because we're very close family. I was there for them through anything, but I didn't receive the same love back. The other day, my sister called me to say her kids miss me and to babysit them. I said no. That's the first time I've ever said no. Why is she calling me now that I'm recovered when she didn't show up for me during the worst times of my life? She said it's because I never told them I needed help. Now they knew exactly what I was going through. They knew I couldn't walk. They knew I couldn't use my hands. They saw me with their own eyes, first day of my injury at the hospital, then completely disappeared on me. I feel I'm only good enough when I'm helping them, but when I'm unable to do anything, I'm unwanted. I'm going to be all alone, but I decided to cut my siblings off my life permanently. I will no longer be watching their kids for them. I've let them know this and have changed my number. They think it's evil to do to your family. What do you guys think? Am I the jerk? I just can't blame OP for feeling backstabbed when they bend over backwards both with money and actions to be there for them and their kids and do whatever they can to support them, and then just have radio silence when they're at their very worst. I don't think it even really is about whether or not they jumped over to help them. It's about reaching out and just trying to be emotionally supportive. They were absent. It's not the kids' fault, so I feel bad for the kids getting in the crossfire, but I don't blame OP. Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling my sister why I'm acting cold during family dinner that was thrown in my honor after she made it about herself? I, 25-year-old female, am the middle child in our family of 3 siblings. Allison, 28, Jake, 22. Sadly, I'm the stereotypical unseen middle child while Allison is the golden daughter. She literally cannot do anything wrong based on my parents' opinion. I opened up a new bakery in our town. My mom invites the whole family for dinner once in a while, and this time, she said the dinner was in my honor to celebrate my new job, which was sweet, and I was pleasantly surprised. Allison lives in a different city. When she came home for dinner, she was not alone. She had her girlfriend, Elizabeth, 30-year-old female, with her. Now Allison is a playgirl who uses her law degree to get laid, even on my friends back in the day, but she never brought her girlfriends home. She did this time and everyone's attention was on her. Through the whole dinner, there was only one mention of my bakery. Ironically, it was from Elizabeth. The rest was spent on getting to know Elizabeth and her job, interests, how she met Allison, etc. It also didn't help that she was a psychiatrist and everyone had questions. I was beyond pissed. She could have brought her home at any other time, but she chose this one time that our parents decided to acknowledge me. So I was cold throughout the dinner. Not that anyone really cared. At the end of the night, Allison asked me why I was sulking. I told her the truth, and I said she managed to make this about herself as well, that she couldn't live if the spotlight wasn't on her. She told me I should be happy for her because she's fallen in love, and is extremely happy with her girlfriend and wanted her to be a part of this celebration. She knew exactly what bringing a girlfriend would do to the dinner, so I told her she could have done it literally any other night. Right now, we're still pretty distant. Am I the jerk here? Am I overreacting? I think it's the parents' fault. I think it's a dynamic that they've perpetuated, and I really don't think OP was out of line. This next story is, am I the jerk for not wanting to dye my hair? Context: my extended family, 25 to 30 of us, often, every 3 weeks to a month, have gathering and events at some of my older relatives' houses since they all have lots of space. I don't always attend since I don't get along with some of the people, but I do go sometimes because it's nice to have the entire family in one place. Most of my family is religious, and some of the older generation is old-fashioned. My brother got a new girlfriend, and this was her first time coming to one of our gatherings, and the first me and a lot of the family met her. I have mousy brown hair that I've dyed once or twice to blonde, but last week I decided to get pretty bold pink highlights and was really happy with them. When I met brother's girlfriend, she clearly didn't like my hair, even though she didn't say it outright. It was clear she was uncomfortable and didn't speak to me for long before walking away, politely. Later, when most people had left, brother confronted me about this. He called me a jerk because I knew his girlfriend is extremely religious, and I should have waited until after the event to dye my hair, and it was my fault the girlfriend had a bad impression of me now. He also accused me of trying to attention seek since this event was supposed to be about his new girlfriend, but I also got some attention for my hair, especially from the kids and teens. Some of my family, like my aunts and older cousins, are siding with him, and I think someone even said I shouldn't feel the need to dye my hair in the first place, and I should be happy with the hair God gave me. So Reddit, am I the jerk? Absolutely, OP is not the jerk. We all know that OP didn't do it to try to draw all this attention to themselves. They're just threatened by OP's presence for some reason. Maybe they want to be like OP. Our next story is, am I the jerk for threatening eviction to my girlfriend's father? I recently inherited an apartment complex from a deceased family member. In one of the 2 buildings, small world, is my girlfriend's father. In his apartment is a severe hoarding condition. I noticed this when I went door to door to meet with each tenant to inform them of new ownership and management. I knocked on the door, and the door can only open halfway. The stench is terrible of cat pee and etc. Clothes and garbage from floor to ceiling, and the only organized room was the bedroom. I was shocked. I told him that I'm giving him 30 days to clean or he'll be evicted. He said, "Well, I'm your girlfriend's dad. You can't do that to me. I won't have anywhere to live." He has 6 cats. No idea how they're even alive. There's black mold in the closet, and I spotted about 6 cockroaches. I told him that I'll order a dumpster for next weekend. If compliance is not met, I will have him legally evicted, as he poses a huge hazardous threat to everyone in the building. My girlfriend is begging me to let him stay, but I'm not wasting time and any more funds on him or giving any special treatment. I also told him that if he's able to stay after the 30 days, I'm giving him 30 days to get rid of the cats, as I will not be allowing them on my properties. This has created so much tension between him and me and my girlfriend because she wants him to live the way he has been. Am I the jerk? Definitely not the jerk. It's painful because there's a lot of emotions going on here. But OP in this situation cannot allow this guy to continue to live like that. I mean, this guy is going to just eventually create enough of a pest problem to potentially hamper the rest of your apartment complex. You can't allow that. Our next story is, am I the jerk for reporting my friend to his work and getting him fired because he refused to give my books back? I, 27-year-old female, recently had some friends over at my house for my birthday. I have a book collection with some signed books by relatively famous authors. They're not behind a locked shelf or anything, but they're in my room. After they left, I noticed that a few of my books were gone, and someone mentioned that Jay, 28-year-old male, claimed I let him borrow the books. I called Jay and yelled at him about lying and stealing my books. He tried to explain that he was taking them to his work, bookstore, to get them officially appraised, and it was going to be a surprise gift. I chewed him off and asked him how that's considered a gift, and I wanted the books back. He refused. I told him I'll be calling the cops at his work if he doesn't, and he still refused to bring them back. I immediately called the cops to file a police report and waited until the morning to call his work. I gave them all the details, including the case number, and said I'll be coming with an officer to get my books back from Jay that day. His work cooperated with me and promptly fired Jay after I got my books back. Jay claims that I went too far over a few books and demands that I give him money until he finds another job. Am I the jerk? 100% not the jerk. I love that OP put their foot down here and made sure that their property can't just get stolen like that. I don't know what this guy was thinking. Very clearly he has some main character syndrome or something, thinking they can just take whatever they want and nothing's going to harm them. Our next story is, am I the jerk for accepting the suggestion and not coming back? Ruined a family dinner? I'm known in the family to be a control freak about preparing food. In fact, in my family, there are 2 dinners in the year that all members come, in all 30 people, and before I took over, all dinners were extremely late. There was always some problem with seasoning or poor preparation. I'm organized, and for every meal, I have a spreadsheet with everything I need to make a huge-scale dinner. At first, they didn't respect it. But after seeing that my method was useful, everyone joined in and allowed me to be the head of the organization. Since then, dinners are ready on time, everyone praises and repeats the dish, not very common. It's 1 to 2 days for preparing meals. I don't ask them to help me because I know I'm serious with organization, but if the person wants to, I ask them to respect the process. Another fact, my mother was a cook for 1 year, and my sister-in-law is studying gastronomy. The situation: Sunday was the half-yearly dinner and I was the head as usual. Would help me, my sister-in-law, mother, aunt, and uncle. This would be sister-in-law's first family dinner and she offered to help. During the preparation, my mother started to do several things wrong, and every time I said something, she said something like, "Stay calm, a wrong thing will not lead to anything." The problem is that she did so much wrong, skipping so many necessary steps in the food, that most things I had to redo or give a second look. She continued to help, even though I said it wasn't necessary. I broke down when I just commented something about steps with my sister-in-law, and she corrected me. I was going to comment, but my mother said, "I think you better cool off in the pool and let those with experience sort it out." I accepted, grabbed a glass of wine, the spreadsheet with me, and spent the whole day in the pool, ignoring when asked to come back. So dinner was late, poorly seasoned, undercooked, and no one had a second dish. My mother later said that I ruined dinner and humiliated our family in front of relatives in revenge. I shouldn't take that serious because it was a silly family joke. By the way, I love making these dinners, and yes, my mother's sister-in-law behavior is common. Am I the jerk? I just can't blame OP. They knew what they were doing, they had a process, and they came and scrambled it all up. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another crazy Am I the Jerk Here story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.